All right, so welcome. I just wanted to introduce Bookkeeping Intro 101. So I'm going to teach you how to do some bookkeeping today, and it's going to allow you to get a bookkeeping job and be able to basically categorize expenses for businesses. That's what I'm going to show you, an efficient way to categorize businesses' expenses and deliver them Excel, Google Sheet, Excel files that are clean, organized, and easy to read. And it's going to teach you some basic Excel skills or Google Sheet skills. And that's going to help you speed this process up a lot, because if you try to do this manually or if you use other software, I think sometimes it's even slower and you can't really customize it as well. And you don't quite come off as professional as maybe others that you might be going up against. But if you can do it, right using Google Sheets or Excel, you're going to be able to customize anything you want in an Excel file. And that's really going to allow you to do anything that might come up in the future with businesses. It's going to help you look professional. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen with you. This is what we're going to be making right here is a practice sheet. And so it's blank right now. I'm going to show you kind of like how to go about getting it, starting out. A company's going to go, okay, download our financials. They're going to give you probably an access to their, in this case, it's a credit card, which would represent one expense account that they may have many. So you're gonna have to download all their different expense accounts on all their different credit cards and all their different bank accounts, and you'll have to go in and get good at downloading. So I thought I'd show you this step. Is what you want to do is view all transactions. Then you want to start down here, time period. You want to put in all the way down. You want to go to year to date. Okay. And what you want to do here is you want to be able to download these, export them. But in this case, it doesn't show all of them yet. And I know how this works. So I know I need to hit load more transactions. Now it's going to load all of them. It goes all the way back to January 6th. And so we're going to be able to download these transactions. Going to hit this download export button. And what I've found with Google Sheets is it's easier with Google Sheets as I use CSV. Now, if the firm that is hiring you is using QuickBooks, you can download them in QuickBooks, and I'm not going to teach you how to use QuickBooks because I don't use it. It's probably pretty easy, but that's a whole other lesson. So I'm going to teach you how to do, like I said, the raw version on spreadsheets, and it's going to be easier and allow you to do, I think, more and impress them more. So, but learning QuickBooks is definitely useful as well. Now you can do tab delimited or CSV. I've found that CSV works in Google Sheets. So you just want to do, label it. Let's say, this is city credit card 1, and I already have it, so I'm just going to replace it. And then, okay, so great. So we got that. Now we have to go to Google Sheets. You want to hit File, Import. Okay, and then all you do is go to Upload and drag your file in. For me, my file downloaded right there. So I drag in my file. Now, another choice. So this may not work and depends on the bank that you download it from and the format of that particular bank's CSV file. But in ours, what we want to do, well, actually what I just said is not as relevant, but we'll get to that. What this is import location. Do you want to create a new spreadsheet? No, we want it to go in Maloo practice. So we want it to go to insert new sheets, or replace spreadsheet, either one. If you want to go down sheet 1 that we have open right here, then you could hit replace. If you want to insert new, then insert new. Don't hit create new because it'll put it into a whole new file, and that's what we don't want. So insert new sheet, detect automatically. If you know the separator type, you can pick it, but I leave it as detect automatically, and it usually works. Import data, and now you'll get this. And so in this case, I usually extend the columns out so I can see what they say. And what we want to do is I usually take some space and create some space at the top of the sheet, because what you want is to be able to make your sums and different things up here. You're going to have like categories, all right, for expenses, and you're going to have like groceries. You're going to have like Apple Pay. Apple looks like has some. We're going to have like, and you might, instead of calling this Apple, you might call it tech, like technology expenses, tech apps, or whatnot. And, we have, Burger King, we have restaurants, we're going to have the restaurants. So however the firm wants you to classify these expenses, you can put categories like this. You can also do, tax codes. This would be like a separate one, but you can do like, and then in the tax codes, you have a bunch of numbers usually, because it's like, hey, this tax code category 13, expense, 13. And what I'm talking about here is if you go to the IRS website and just type in Schedule C, this is the business expense schedule. So there's instructions here. You can just do Schedule C. Balance interesting form. Yeah, this is, well, that's sole proprietorship, but that's fine. So you'll see right here, under the expense category, you get all these different numbers. Okay, if it's advertising, it's number 8. If it's car and truck, it's 9. And you'll have all these words and all these categories all the way to 27, and that will be shown all the way here. From 8, which is advertising, and you'll go all the way down. And for each one of these, you're going to put a code for them. You're going to put, so advertising, you want to put, and we'll put a thing here that says code. We can put code, and then I put tax code. So like for code, that's more for like internal, like for the business, it'd be like one of these categories, for groceries, it might be G. Tech, restaurants, those are the codes. And then these are tax codes. And under tax codes, these you'll classify as a certain tax code. So like groceries, you might have that as like restaurants, right? And restaurants, you'll look at it and you'll go, oh, where would that go? That would go, where did it go? Office expense, commissions, depletion, depreciation, employee benefit, insurance, interest, mortgage, other, travel, deductible meals. Okay, 24B, right? That's where this would go. And so 24B is going to be your tax code here. I mean, it's probably not. Groceries are not deductible, but restaurants are. So this will be 24B, and this would just be like NA. Tech apps, that's probably going to be, you look in here, and I have all these already coded in another file. I'll just send you the list. It's got, all the things diagrammed out in it already, but that's what you'll do is you go, okay, how are we classifying this? This would go into, supplies, or it would go into, probably legal professional services, if you're in like paying for apps online for a business to use, but whatever, let's call it legal professional. We'll put 17. So you'll go and put down advertising is 8 and the car is 9. And now we have some sample codes. Okay. We have regular codes and we have tax codes. And so what we're going to do is we're going to go through each one and we're going to put a code. What is this? Is this a category? And then we're going to have a third one as well. And it's going to be more like revenue, expense, contribution, distribution, transfer. And so with this one, this is like another business code. You can put this here. This is usually the order that I do it in. R, E, C, D, and T. And then for each of these, all these are going to be expenses, right? So they're all going to be E, 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 like that. And all these are going to be expenses because that's what you're doing, Schedule C expenses. Right? So advertising, you might get an A here. This is just a legend, right? So this is like a legend and a summary. And then what we're going to do is we're going to add these up. So this is going to be like totals. And so we're going to bold these. And so if you want a total for advertising, you can get it. If you want a total for just restaurants, you can get it. If you want a total for anything, you can get it right in this space. That's what we're building. And so what we're going to do is we're going to take a code that allows us to, instead of manually totaling all these things up and go, okay, I'm going to go through and I'm going to just be able to put a G next to it. It's going to be an expense. Okay. So Supermax Online was an expense. It's a grocery expense because that's my grocery store. And then the tax code for that is NA. Or we're just going to leave it blank to save us time. It doesn't have a tax code. Okay. Auto pay is a transfer, right? And so for these, we're going to have expense, revenue. I like to put revenue first because usually calculate. But on an expense account, you're going to have expenses more than you're going to have revenue. Contribution. A contribution is when a business owner puts money into the business. Like, let's say I, RJ DeLong, take my $10,000 that's in my personal bank account and I'm going to invest it in my business so that the business can spend it on expenses that it needs in order to operate. Then that money that comes in wasn't coming in as a sale from a client as revenue. It's coming in as a contribution from an owner. So when you have money come into account, it's either revenue or it's a contribution. It's, you know, those are the two that it's going to have to be. It could be a transfer, you know, if you have two different accounts that are both bank accounts that the company owns, you could have, you know, company account 1 sent money to company account 2 and money came in, but it was just a transfer. It's not revenue and it's not a contribution. So that's what you're going to be learning, is how to classify these. So those are the major ones. And then these are the codes next to them. Okay. So that's R, that's E, that's C, that's D, and that's T. Now you'll go, R, we have R already for restaurants though, RJ. And I'm like, yeah, that's true. But don't worry, we're going to add it out of a different column. So the R's in this column are only going to be revenue. The R's in the code column or category column are only going to be restaurants. It's not going to get mixed up. So it won't matter. But make sure that you don't duplicate, you know, letters within this category. You know, you don't want to have two R's under this one. You don't want to have two R's under that one or two R's under that one. So we only have one R in this one. So that's why. Okay. Now, so revenue is not going to have a tax code because it's just all your revenue. But under expenses, you're going to have different, you're not going to have a tax code for an expense total, but you're going to designate them out. So you don't need anything here. These would stay empty. These would all stay empty. So this is done. I mean, we could fill this out more, this part. This one's actually going to be car, so it's going to be C. And then that looks good. Yeah, and then these are all filled in. So now what we want to do is go, okay, but how do we get the totals? That's what the company wants us to produce, is the totals and the workability of the sheet. You know, when we send these sheets back to them, they're going to go, oh, cool, he's got all these columns. I can just change it if I edit it and I decide, no, that wasn't this, it was that. I just changed that one letter and it's going to reflect everything in the statement that we output. So that's the nice thing about my system is, I mean, yeah, you can do some of that within QuickBooks too. But it's not manual, you know, and you don't have as much sortability, you just don't have as much control, I feel like, here as you do here. So what we want to do is we want to fill these in, right? This part was all generated by the download. Okay. And what we're creating for our clients is this part. And so, you know, we're going to have like, let's see, what's a good color to use? Yellow's okay. All right. So here you can just go like this. You can turn this yellow and then just do the column headings, push the little star button or shift on your PC and just change that one. And now you've got it looking a little bit better, right? You've got this nice looking format here. And that's a little dark actually. So I might want to just do this like this. And then, yeah, what you want to do, well, we did it backwards again. Let's do it like this, light blue, and then just re-highlight the category headings. And then you can change it like that. Okay. So now we got a little color to this, not bad. As we go through, I'm going to teach you another trick here, because as we start working the sheet, that's just setting up what we're trying to produce. Okay. And once you do this on one, you can just copy and paste this in on all the other businesses. You don't have to retype any of this stuff. Now, customizing business to business, they're going to maybe want different categories, but the tax codes are all going to be the same, and the revenue expense contribution, that these parts will all be the same for every business. Different businesses might have different breakout categories they want you to track. So now we got this. And actually from codes, I'm going to put categories here. I think it makes it easier for you. Tax codes, categories. And then, yeah, this is more like, I'm just going to leave it how it is. Okay. So what we want to do is, now in this one, particular in city, it separated debits and credits. It doesn't need to do that necessarily. I don't really want it to do that. So I'm just going to take this and I'm just going to move, like, what I'll show you what I'm going to do. Just so what we need to do here is we want to take this, oop, a little too far, click and drag all the way down and select all of the, actually what you want to do is, I should have done it first, but you really want it to sort all the transactions on the page. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to make a new sheet, because this is going to be faster. Okay. And I'm going to take this that I just made, that's going to be on my header kind of at the top. I'm going to copy and paste that. I'm going to put it in sheet 2 just so we don't lose it. Now it's all there. It looks a little different, but it's all there. Now we're going to go back. We're going to delete this. It was 16. So just take note of that. Delete that off. We still have it here. Okay. Now take and click and drag across this all the way across, and we're going to create a filter. So data, add a filter, create a filter. Now this is sorting the entire page. We did all, whatever, 1,000 numbers all the way down. So if we add more transactions, it's still included in our filter. And we can always turn off and on our filter. I mean, you can turn it off and turn it on, and there's reasons to do that sometimes. So, but now what I want to do is now that I got the filter covering the whole page, I want to get my rows back in there. So what I need to do, unfortunately, I haven't found a faster way of doing this, but always do insert one row above. And I like to just undo the formatting, reset. And now just click it again, left click it, insert one row above. And now that we have 2, we can do 2, you know. And honestly, let me just try this. Let's try 16. See, if I do 16 and I say above, okay, there it is. It puts it right above. So if you want 16 rows, just highlight 16 and hit above and you're in there. Now we want 16. Okay. So when we take this, we copy and paste this back. Boom. Okay. Now what we did was we added a filter. What that allows me to do is sort this column by greatest to lowest, maintaining my designations for things next to the proper expense. So before it was sorted by date, and now it's sorted by amount. So I can go, okay, I want to know what the important things are first. I want to separate out, what I wanted to do is separate out all the negatives, right? Because I'm going to condense these. I'm going to copy, I'm going to cut and paste actually, and then I'm just going to drag this down because it has formatting. And now that looks good. I can get rid of this credit column just because I don't need it the way that I'm doing it in this particular case. I can just have all the amounts, and I'm going to change this from saying debit to amount. Okay. All right. Now we have all of our stuff organized. What we want to do is classify expenses next. So this is the real work. Now that you're set up and you've imported the statements, you've got your codes and categories and whatnot, this is the real work. So you're going to go through and add data to the sheet. And so I actually don't need a status on whether it's cleared or not either. I don't want that category in there. So I'm just going to delete that column. And other banks may have other columns they've put in that you don't necessarily need to work with. You can preserve the data and just hide it. And I might just for the companies like, hey, you got rid of all this data and now we have to go get it again somehow for some reason, who knows. You might want to just click and drag columns to the right side of your sheet. Keep them within the filter. Make sure you're filtering everything so it never gets, mismatched with lines. But you might want to drag them to the right side and then just hide them so that it's not like, lost, but it's not, you don't have to look at it either. And so let's say I did want to do that, you just go to view. No, actually, I think let's just go to here. You click on the column, left click on it and just do hit hide column. All right. So that's how you would do that. But date's important. So you want to leave the date. I usually like to format my columns like so I have a space between them and they don't run together. And then with these, I always put them in the middle because it's easier to see them in the middle like that. So that's how I like to get mine cleaned up. Now what we're going to do is we're actually going to go through and categorize them so you can start to see the power in the way I categorize it to save you time. Okay. So first thing, yeah, you can sort by dollar amounts, knock off your biggest things first. You can also sort by description. And so when you do that, what's nice about this is, the same thing is always going to be classified the same way. It's always going to have an E, if Supermax is a grocery store. So I'm going to just click and drag this down and same thing here. And so this saves you time. You don't have to look at line by line. You can kind of look at blocks of transactions and categorize them the same way. And so, for tax code groceries, we don't have one, so we're going to leave that empty. Oh, the other thing that's nice, and this is also why I do it this way, is make sure you have your same menu on the top and the bottom line. Okay, I'm going to show you how to do this. All right. Yeah, we can go with description. I mean, because these are the same. Let's change this to categories. And then change this to description. Okay. And bold this. All right. Now what I want to do is I want to hit view, freeze, one row. So when I scroll, I can see what are my categories. Now I can have this like, okay, tax codes is on the right. What was that column? I just freeze the row. Okay. All right. Now going through Zara, you might not know what certain things are. And so you might want to have a code. I'm going to actually move the categories over here first because that's what we're working with right now. So I might go, hey, I don't know what Zara is. I'm just going to use a question mark as a category for what I want to come back to. And then you can sort by anything in this. You can filter out. You can go, hey, I only want to see, let's clear all. I only want to see question marks. Okay. Now it's only going to show me one line. It's only going to show me that. Okay. But then to do that, you want to hit select all to get it back, hit OK, go back. And what we're going to do is we're going to work with this column first. Okay. So World Remit, what was that? Oh, that was a charitable contribution. It was, for, lack of a better word, it was yeah, we can put like charitable, we can put gift. We don't know. We have a G. Yeah. Let's put donation. I think we don't have a D up here yet, do we? Yeah, let's put D, donation. And see, I just blended it. So like tax code should be bolded. It's kind of like a heading, you know what I mean? And I want to put something above that just to keep this clean. All right. Now, we have donation. We put the D here, and it's kind of like an expense. Tax code. It's going to be a different thing on a tax code. We're going to leave that blank for now. It's not on Schedule C, I don't think. Let's look at Schedule C. These are in alphabetical order. If you didn't notice, they're kind of in alphabetical order. So yeah, I'm not sure where it is right now. On here, it might not be on Schedule C actually. So yeah. So we're gonna go back. So we're gonna categorize expenses. Okay, it took a little work to get our stuff imported and organized. Now we're gonna go ahead and do the work. So we're gonna say office. I'm making this up. And then we're just going to drag it down. Office expense is actually shipping on, you might want shipping, you might want office, depends on the company. But to goes, we don't know. That's probably a restaurant. Thank you points. This is like NA. Subway restaurant. Subway restaurant. Okay. That's like a square, I think. So it's like, we'll say vendor, just generally like expense to a vendor. And every time we do this, we can just go like this, add below. Or we can do, hey, I want to add 3 more rows. Insert 3 rows below. All right. So vendor. And now these are all bolded and I don't want them bolded. And office. All right. So now we're getting these codes. All right, well, we have enough. I could go through and categorize all these. Let's just do this. So this is like entertainment, we'll say E. I don't think I have any E's up here. All right. Click and drag this down. Still PlayStation. Okay. This is office. This is, I don't know, utility. So we added a new letter. Let's put it in here. Utility. Marshall's, S for shopping. Restaurant. Interest I. So S and I we put in here. So instead of shopping, you might want to say like inventory, you know. We already have an I for interest, so inventory can be like INV. It auto-filled it. And so instead of shopping, I'll do INV. Now, I mean, we're pretending this is a business thing. If I was just shopping and it wasn't really inventory, then you wouldn't mark it as inventory. But, you know, we're just kind of Champs. I'm not sure what Champs is. Say it's a restaurant. Restaurant. Auto pay is going to be a T for transfer. Shit. Okay. And then we'll say, oh, well, did I have T for technology? I think. Yeah, I did. So that's the danger. So yeah, you don't want to do this. I don't think I have payments. Just put in like CC for credit card pay. Or you can just do pay, you know, whatever. It doesn't matter. Any letters you want. This will be T for technology. Okay. This is a fee. Actually, I just put interest and fees in the same thing. But you know, for certain businesses, you separate interest and you have fees and you have interest, and you don't want to combine them, but you know, that's stuff you need to know too. And that's also kind of like a good bookkeeper would know that. And you know, you kind of have to talk to the business, but you kind of have to talk to an accountant and know how to classify what is what. So in this case, if you want to ask me questions like how would you classify that, you would ask me. I can be like your senior bookkeeper or your accountant. I'm not really an accountant, but we'll say utility, and this was like a gas expense, but gas expenses are not depreciable. So I think there was another gas up here too. Yeah, so that's gas. So gas are not expensible. You expense mileage on cars, not gas. So you're not going to do this. Is not going to have a tax code. It's going to be NA. But you want to say, oh, I spent this on gas. So but for our sake, we're just like, yeah, I spend it, I'm going to count it as a utility, but like I'm not going to count it as a utility for my taxes. So that's why the gas is the only utility that you wouldn't mark as a utility for like car gas. If it's your gas bill for your house, then it's utility. Okay. Online payment. Okay, so this is CC. No, we did pay, didn't we? Okay, membership fees is, I'm gonna put M for miscellaneous. So we added a few more things, didn't we? I think we did gas. And pay. All right, now we have our letters. We have everything categorized out of all our expenses. They're all categorized. Now here's where the beauty of coding comes in. I guess this is like a payment in a way. So we'll do pay. Took a balance off. All right. Now, what did the G's? Now, normally what a lot of accountants have done for me or bookkeepers, they've been like, okay, now we have to go through and we have to sort. We have to sort by, actually, delete, I'm trying to write it out, right? They would like sort it, which is really slow, but they would be like, okay, let's sort it by that. And then they'll go through and they'll go, okay, let me add up all these, and it would be like equals sum this. But like when you change the columns around, it's going to not work. When you change the sorting, it's going to not work. And if you manually want to type it in, you'd be like, okay, so I'll go, all right, I'm doing O right now. So this is what a lot of accounts would do is they go, okay, I need a total for O. It's going to be equal. And then you want to go down to O. And then you go this plus this plus this plus this plus this. And it takes forever, right? And yeah, you're going to go up here and you're going to get a total. But this, it's really hard to like come up here and then change where that one is in here if you go, oh, well, that wasn't an O later. So what we can do, instead of doing that, we're going to do equals Sumif. And this is the beautiful part of Sumif. Is what you want to do is you want to go Sumif the category that has a letter in it, the category column, Sumif this, and you're just going to go to D, all of them, comma, if that category has this letter, which is the one I want, which is this one, then add the totals to C. Okay, so you can see it's selecting it all the way down, all those. So if the orange column, which is the category, is D7, which means it's an O, then add it up, add it, and put the total from the green column into that box. Okay, so that's a Sumif command, and boom. Now, all we have to do if we want to change or whatever is let's just mark this a P. And now the total changed from 2808. It's going to change. So let's mark this back as an O. And now we're back at 29. And so here's the beauty. Now that once we've made this code one time, we actually can change it. And we can maneuver it around really easily. We just put these dollar signs in here, which tell it to fix. And this is what we don't want, is we don't want to put in front of that 7. But the rest of them, we're going to put it in front of each of these letters. Okay? So we put our dollar signs in, and that allows me to drag the formula to the other spaces and maintain, you'll see. Okay, so I'm going to drag this down, and now it gives me all my totals. I can drag it back up, and it gives me all my totals. And we can do this for tax codes too. So like, you're going to have another column here. Okay, this total is for the category, right? But like, you're going to have a tax code total. So this would be like category total. Well, this will be actually, this would be cat total, category total. You have another column. And so see, our filter isn't big enough now. So what we want to do is we want to add from the middle point one to the right, and then drag this one inside, because now we've kept our filter. It's inside, it's got a filter, right? And so what we'll do here is we're going to put RE. Actually, I think I didn't need to do that. So these totals are for the category here, right? This total is for going to use this column, but we're going to put the totals here. And so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to drag this down. It's not going to work, but it's at least going to, I'm just going to copy, paste this here. You're going to get a 0 because why? Well, did we mark anything as advertising? Did we do, in tax codes, did we mark anything as an 8? Well, let's just say that these were 8s. Let's say all these were 8s. We should be getting a total here, but we're not. Why? Because it's not referencing the tax code column, which is what we wanted to reference. We're referencing this one. So what we need to do is change the C to an F. All right. And now it will reference it. That's an 8. Okay. I'm sorry, I just did that wrong. So we actually wanted to reference the amount out of C. I changed the wrong one. But we want it to, instead of referencing D18, it's referencing this code. We want it to reference F18. So this is the one we need to change. And we want it to read the F column. So we're changing the D's to F's. Okay, but we're still referencing the C column for the dollar amount. So now this should work. Okay, and it does. All right, and then we're going to do the same thing here. We don't have any C's, or we don't have any, actually, we're not going to use, this is what's confusing, is why I had an A and C. Advertising is just going to be an 8 and 9. Any of these advertising, if you want to know an advertising expense, you can use the 8 or 9, right? Like, yes, you might also have an A for advertising, but you might also have like advertising and marketing and, SEO. You might have other categories that all combine into advertising. And this is the combined advertising for tax reasons number. Anyway, revenue, expenses, you got those. And so it's actually going to reference, it's going to reference these columns, but like we'll just leave it there just to not confuse you. All right, so this one, we're going to just copy and paste the format to get the basics in. And then we're going to change the reference column because this one is referencing F. So we want to change F to E. We want to be referencing this. So, okay, F to E. E21. Perfect. Okay. Now we don't have any revenues, but let's say that this one is a revenue. Okay. Now revenue wouldn't exist in a credit card account, but it might exist in like a refund, but it looks like this would be kind of like revenue because you paid it, but it's not revenue. So we won't have any R's on this account, but just for sake of showing you that it works, there you go. Okay. So we delete the R, we'll delete it. And then expenses, these are all going to be E's. So this column becomes really easy because they're all E's except for the payments, right? So you just take this, or the payments are going to be transfers. So take that, drag that down. Anywhere it says pay is basically going to be a T. And then all these are going to be E's again for expenses. Okay, and I'll just make sure that they really are expenses. Gas. Yeah, that's right. Still an expense. Okay, yeah. And those should all be positive because they're expensive. Any negative numbers wouldn't be. Okay. And so this also becomes like expense and whatnot becomes easier when you sort by the amount. See, then now you don't have to worry if any negative numbers are mixed in. You could sort by amount when you do the revenue expenses. Okay. So we did all of this. All these expenses will have a different tax code. So once you do that, you just fill in the right tax codes. That would take a while because each one would be a different tax code. And I'm not going to do that in the lesson because it's just, paperwork essentially. But that's how you do that. And then you take this and you just drag it down because it's referencing this box, right? It's referencing the right box. You can see. Okay. So again, I think the hardest thing is really just copying this formula. Sumif, understanding that the orange column is like, hey, if the orange column, you kind of read like, start with if the orange column is equal to the purple, well, I had it differently here. If the orange column is equal to the purple, then sum the green box number next to it. Okay. So that's how that works again. And it's all calculated in there and whatnot and whatnot. And so what we're going to get when we're done calculating these up for a business is we're going to have tax already done. We can go through and we can change the tax codes on anything. You can send these sheets to your business clients and they can change the tax codes. And now this is the beauty of using Google Sheets versus using what I believe is like the limitation within QuickBooks, although I haven't used it in a while, they may have updated, is like we can sort by multiple columns. We can classify things 3 different ways or 10 different ways and get clarity on them. Whereas in QuickBooks, it's just like, hey, what category is it in? It doesn't have a column for tax code, essentially. And so it leaves you to do all these extra things. And that's why my system works so well. So that's how you do the whole thing. Let me know if you have any questions, if I did anything too quickly, if you want to practice anything. Okay. Thanks so much. Let me know how it goes. All right. And I guess now I'm zoomed in. See you later. Have a good one.